Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for our quarterly Behavioral Sciences and Social Medicine Community Rounds, one of our favorite things that we do. And today, by popular demand, we have a topic related to nutrition and food insecurity, a very important topic for health, and a wonderful panel of folks presenting today, and hopefully we'll have some time for discussion. So again, we sincerely appreciate everybody joining us. My name is Heather Flynn. I'm the chair of the Department of Behavioral Sciences and Social Medicine, for those of you who don't know me. And I'm just delighted to turn this over to Dr. Brian Howard. Did you want to make a few comments before we launch into the introductions?
Only that we appreciate everyone joining, and thanks to everyone signing up and attending. Makes these all the more successful, so we appreciate it.
So our committee consists of Dr. Brian Howard, Dr. Megan Dyken-Hansen, myself, Uta Horn, and Meredith Fuller-Burgess, who's out on leave. And so thanks to the committee. I will turn it over to Dr. Dyken-Hansen for some introductions, and then we can get underway.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you again for joining us. I'm so honored and happy to be here with our panelists of three wonderful speakers today. All of our speakers have some really exciting news and content to share with you, beginning with Dr. Julia Scheffler. She's an assistant professor in the Department of Behavioral Sciences and Social Medicine at FSU College of Medicine, and she's the director of the Integrative Science for Health Aging Research Program at FSU. Dr. Scheffler's research focuses on improving scientific understanding of risk and resiliency factors related to late life health and cognitive functioning, with training geared toward understanding the complex biopsychosocial pathways through which neurocognitive disorders develop, which include how adverse childhood experiences alter biological pathways and influence the onset of late life disease. Using this background, Dr. Scheffler is currently examining psychosocial and behavioral intervention development for improving late life health. Dr. Scheffler received her bachelor's degree from Southern Illinois University, her master's and PhD in clinical psychology from FSU, and completed her clinical internship at Denver VA Medical Center. Welcome, Julia. Our next speaker will be Mama Maisha Mitchell. Mama Maisha is the Greater Frenchtown Revitalization Council's executive director and co-founder of the Tallahassee Food Network's iGrow program in the Frenchtown area. Mama Maisha has a history of prevention, health education, intervention, and treatment in substance use disorders and co-occurring conditions that has spanned the last 40 years. She also has worked in social work, public health, and community organizing to support families, women, and children in diverse populations. She is a superstar when it comes to community engagement and community-based participatory research, where she's focused on food insecurity, community gardening, health equity, and social determinants of health. And she partners with international organizations and to focus on intergenerational, collaborative, and innovative advancing models and evidence-based practices to build systems of care, with a special emphasis on the intergenerational knowledge that advances translational research, improves health outcomes, and creates environmental health equity policies that build the foundations for sustainable communities. She's worked for more than 4 decades in diverse communities to address diabetes, cancer, and obesity among African American and Latino families who suffer most from disparities and inequities in healthcare. Her ongoing desire is to influence policies that address healthy behaviors, health literacy, health equity, and racial disparities. And through this work, she's been a recipient of many awards since 1994, including the 2016 Board of Commissioners Salute for her years of dedicated service to the Tallahassee Housing Authority, the 2016 Oasis Center for Women and Girls Trailblazer Award, and the 2015 Tallahassee Women Magazine Women of Wisdom. Our final speaker today is the wonderful Libby Simmons. Libby is originally from Santa Rosa Beach, Florida, and has received her undergraduate degree from Florida State University College of Social Work in 2019. Libby continued her education at FSU by obtaining a master's degree in social work in 2020 and is the major gifts manager at Second Harvest of the Big Bend. Libby works to educate and engage the Tallahassee community on the issue of food insecurity and how they can come together to make a difference. Thank you all for being here, and I'll let Dr. Julia Scheffler take it from here.
Thank you, Megan. All right, let me just share my screen. All right, everyone can see the PowerPoint? Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all. Thank you for that introduction, Megan. So I am going to be covering just the topic of nutrition and health very broadly. I think this is a topic that could easily be many hours. So I'm going to give you guys just some highlights of recommendations by, consensus of CDC, FDA, American Heart Association. And so I'm going to talk in a little bit about why good nutrition is so important to health, and hopefully give you some tips to improve your health and nutrition, and then a little bit on research happening at FSU if there's time. So I'm sure everyone has heard at some point that you need to eat healthy. So first I want to talk a little bit about why proper nutrition can matter so much to health across the lifespan. And nutrition is really vital even before we are born. So research shows us that appropriate nutrition, even prenatally, can provide a really strong foundation for development and help prevent birth defects. In infancy, we know that appropriate nutrition through things like breastfeeding can help protect against childhood illnesses, including different infections. And then moving into childhood, you can see here a range of different benefits of healthy eating, including improvements in mood, energy levels, and even cognitive functioning. And this means then that kids who are able to get a well-balanced diet may actually perform better in schools behaviorally, and they may be better able to focus on the information that they're learning and better retain that. And so healthy eating, even beginning early in childhood, can really help set up just healthy eating habits, but also a healthy foundation for future learning and success. As an adult, we know that people with healthier eating patterns live longer and are at lower risk for different serious health conditions like type 2 diabetes and heart disease. And then for people who have chronic health conditions, healthy eating can also help prevent complications from those conditions by boosting the immune response and even help supporting a healthy gut microbiome. And then as you age, the effects of diet can become more and more pronounced as different conditions that are affected by diet can worsen and begin to affect other systems in your body. So for example, heart disease can actually increase your risk for developing Alzheimer's disease as you get older. And so the effects of improper or proper diet across the lifespan can really add up and potentially leading to higher and higher cost as you get older. So overall, even beyond obesity, which is what a lot of us think of when we think of nutrition, I think it's really worth considering how diet impacts our mood, your energy levels, your focus, and even your checkbook on that day-to-day basis, simply because it can be really costly to be unhealthy. And so hopefully that gets the point that healthy eating matters, but I think the real question is, what does healthy eating look like? And this is actually more of a complex question than it might seem, because depending on the sources that you look at and how up-to-date those guidelines are, you may get different information from different sources. And so I just want to highlight some of the consensus information from across different guidelines like the CDC, FDA, and the American Heart Association. So I think these 4 points that I have on the screen here really kind of synthesize a lot of the most well agreed upon guidelines. One of the first is really thinking about food as fuel, food as energy. And so thinking about on a day-to-day basis, you don't necessarily need to get the same amount to eat every single day. And in fact, what you eat and how much you eat should kind of vary depending on how active you are in those processes. So always kind of thinking about that balance of calories and energy and how active you are. Another strong recommendation is overall choosing minimally processed foods. So choosing foods that are closest to their kind of original source that's often going to look like eating more fruits and vegetables, whole fruits and vegetables. When you're choosing grains, going for the whole grains, the grains that are closer to what they look like in nature, and trying to identify more healthier sources of protein and other plant-based foods. Again, so when you're thinking about this, it's the more ingredients something has, potentially the more processed it is. And so fewer ingredients are going to tend to be healthier sometimes. Another pretty common recommendation across different guidelines is reducing both salt and sugar intake. Anytime that you can replace a food with added sugars with no added sugar or no added sodium, no added salt, that is going to tend to be a little bit healthier. And then in general, the recommendation is to limit alcohol intake. And so one way I think it can be really useful to learn how to do this, which I definitely don't have time to get into this in detail today, but thinking about our food based on its macronutrients. And so all food is comprised of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, or fats, I should say. And so learning what roles each of these macronutrients play in our health can be a really useful way of thinking about changing what you're eating. So carbohydrates tend to make up most of our diet in a Western diet, and these are a source of energy, and some can also promote healthy digestion. So some general guidelines for carbohydrate intake involve reducing simple and refined carbohydrates, which include things like sweets, white breads, pastas, and then avoiding added sugars entirely. Whereas you really want to increase the amount of complex carbohydrates you're taking in. And so these are going to be more high fiber foods, things like vegetables, whole grains, beans, legumes, and different fruits. And this picture here shows you that thinking about color on your plate here is important. So the more colorful sometimes your plate is, it often means that you're getting different types of vitamins, minerals, and a healthier balance in those carbohydrates. Proteins are the macronutrient that allow your body to grow. They help build and repair muscle tissues in particular, and they help protect our lean body mass. And so across the lifespan, it's really important to make sure you're getting an adequate amount of protein from both plant and animal sources. And general recommendations are to try and get about 20 to 25% of your calories from protein sources. And then fats. So fats tend to get a really bad rap in general. We hear a lot of bad information about fats, but really the type of fat is very important. Fats can provide fats play a really vital role in our health and well-being. So fats help provide us with energy in addition to carbohydrates. They cushion our organs. They help us actually create certain hormones and neurotransmitters in the brain. They help us absorb certain types of vitamins, and they even help with cell membrane integrity. So on a cellular level, you need fats in your diet. It's important, though, to distinguish between types of fats. And so recommendations are to avoid trans fats entirely. So this is often things like margarine and often found in more fried foods. You want to limit saturated fats. And so these are often fats found in like beef fats or cow milk, dairy products. And then you really want to increase the amount of unsaturated fats. These are going to come from things like that are pictured here. So more fish, more nuts, things like avocados, olive oils. These fats are going to be really helpful in promoting just a healthier well-being overall. And so now with those little general guidelines, a few other caveats to thinking about what healthy eating looks like. One of the first barriers I think people run into is just knowing what you're eating. We're often kind of led off track into thinking we're eating healthy just by misleading food labels and misleading advertising. And so beginning to learn how to actually know what you're eating and whether it's healthy or not beyond that label can be really useful. So how to do that? One of the first recommendations is to learn how to read ingredients lists. And there's some really useful tools on the CDC's website for this, as well as on the FDA's website. And I'm happy to link to those if anyone would like. But one rule of thumb is just to notice that ingredients are listed in order of weight. So whatever is listed first on an ingredient list is what is in that most. And so one quick way to just kind of see, okay, it says it's healthy. Let me look at the ingredients, and just looking, are the ingredients that they're showing on the front of that label, what are listed first in the ingredient list? And if you see sugar or salt as one of those first ingredients, it should be a big red flag that maybe it's not as healthy as it's saying it is. Another really useful skill, I think, in trying to shift your eating is learning how to read nutrition facts. This is really where you're going to get that information on the types of fats that foods have. So really knowing, is this a healthy fat? Is this an unhealthy fat? It'll help you see the amount of dietary fiber, which can give you an idea of how complex the carbohydrates in something are, as well as that added sugar. And then it also gives you an idea of how much protein. So this is one way, if you're wanting to track on your own your macronutrients, this is one way you can do that. However, my recommendation is to use the tools that are available to us, freely available. One of my favorite apps is the Nutritionix app here. This is a free app that you can get on your smartphone or you can use on the computer. You can search any type of food, you can track everything you eat, and just begin to get an idea because it breaks down everything into your calories, your proteins, carbs, fats. This can just be a really useful tool, even if you're not planning to really change your diet, just to begin noticing and understanding what you're eating on that deeper level and begin to see what that ratio of your macronutrients can look like. So I highly recommend just kind of taking that look at what you're already eating and seeing if there's room for changes. In addition to healthy eating, I think it's really important just to talk about hydration and the role that can play in our health and well-being. There are many, many benefits to staying hydrated. You can see those here. Our bodies are mostly water. And so it's really important to make sure that you're getting at least adequate hydration throughout the day. This can also help curb, cravings. If your stomach feels empty, sometimes having that little bit of water, you're actually thirsty and not hungry. And so just drinking a little water, see if you're still hungry, and then eat something if you are. But a general rule of thumb for how much to drink is about half your body weight in ounces of water. And I think this rule of thumb gets more and more important as you get older, because older individuals tend to lose water a little bit faster throughout the day. So making sure that you're getting adequate hydration really can be more important as you age. Another reason I bring up hydration is because what we drink actually is often contributing to our overall health and well-being. If sodas, fruit juice, other things are a big part of your normal daily routine, these may be contributing a lot more to that ratio of carbohydrates and getting those added sugars than you may realize. For example, 12-ounce can of soda has 10 teaspoons of sugar in it. And so just thinking about, actually eating 10 teaspoons of sugar every time you're drinking a can of soda can sometimes help people put that into perspective. But I know a lot of people tend to think, well, fruit juice may be a good alternative. But in fact, fruit juice often contains just as much sugar as a can of soda. And so when we're thinking about kind of rethinking what you're drinking as far as improving your nutrition and health, trying to find alternatives that are going to be low sugar options, unsweetened water, can even be a way to save costs. Trading out those sugary drinks for just tap water can make a huge difference. All right, and so lastly, I just want to give you a very quick example of food as medicine. And so what I mean by this is that there is growing research showing that certain foods and certain ways of eating can benefit certain medical conditions. And just to be clear, I am not saying that food can or should replace actual medicine, simply that thinking more about the quality of what we eat and how that can actually influence certain medical conditions can be a really important supplement to maintaining our overall health. So for example, my own research focuses right now on understanding how a Mediterranean ketogenic type of nutrition can potentially benefit Alzheimer's disease. And what this type of nutrition simply is shifting the amount of macronutrients we're getting from carbs to getting those more from healthy, high quality fats. So you can see on this food pyramid here, it's sort of like turning that food pyramid upside down somewhat so that really fats are making up a large proportion, and healthy, high quality fats are making up a much larger proportion of our diet, followed by fruits and vegetables and good sources of protein. And so the reason I look at this is that there is some evidence that shifting our calories and our macronutrients in this way is actually related to improvements in insulin signaling, reducing inflammation in our body, and even provides an alternative fuel source for our brain cells, which is why it's really in particular may be useful for Alzheimer's risk. And so based on this work, I am working to develop a community program to help at-risk individuals use and integrate this type of nutrition in their daily lives. And I'm happy to talk more about this if there's questions, but I want to keep this brief. And so lastly, I just want to put up some information if anyone is interested in getting involved with different nutrition studies going on at FSU. There's just a few different ones going on at College of Medicine and the College of Human Sciences here. And you're welcome to reach out by email. All right, I think that is all. So I will stop sharing and hand it over.
Thank you so much, Julia. That was such an interesting talk, and I know that I learned a lot more about nutrition than I had known in the past, and I already downloaded the app. So thank you very much. Our next speaker today is Mama Maisha. Mama Maisha, are you ready to begin?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Are you able to see me? Yes,
we can see you.
Okay.
And it's wonderful to see you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I apologize if I'm going in and out. I had some computer technology issues, so I have Dr. Harris is going to help me share the screen. So if someone could allow her to share my screen, that'd be perfect. And then I'll get started. And then I'm coming from jet lag, so I hope I'm sneezing and carrying on in the middle of it.
I heard about your wonderful trip.
Oh man, I gotta tell you guys off the shot. Appreciate it.
So I'm trying to give Dr. Hairston co-host, but I'm not able to do that. Can you do that, Uta?
Thank you. Anyway, yeah, I just want to talk a little bit about tackling food insecurity in our area, particularly in the 32304 area and in 32305 and other Leon County areas. We've been doing some work around food insecurity with our community-based programming, with gardening, and with the markets that we've been working with here in Tallahassee. So I don't know if you were able to see the screen yet, but I want to start out with just talking about how important it is to think about food insecurity. Thank you, Dr. Julie, for what you said, because all I need to do is just come back at a community perspective and what you were talking about, which is so critical here in Leon County. The work that we've been doing has really pulled to the surface what the needs truly are here in our area. And during the pandemic and the CARES initiatives, we were able to see the impact, not only in the areas that we've been targeting, but now overall, those communities that probably would not have been considered to be food insecure. We're finding that to be a major concern still. Families who we've never seen before in the food lines. I know the Second Harvest person is going to address a lot of that, but I just want to say the scenarios are changing. The numbers are changing drastically when it comes to who's food insecure in our area. And I thought about some questions I know that always come up from some of the families we've been talking to. They don't necessarily understand what food insecurity is all about, just what it is, who's food insecure, first of all, and then just what is about in our community that gets people to think more about it. What is a food desert for sure? That is a key thing that people always associate with being food insecure, that you live in a food desert. But thanks to Julie and her discussion just now, there's other factors that impact that. And we will talk about some of those things. And why in supermarkets, we don't see a lot of supermarkets in our community. these food desert communities, we see a lot of what we call food swamps. And, those guys who are familiar with nutrition understand that we have a lot more of those in our communities than we do grocery stores. There's the food chains, McDonald's and all the other places that sell those great foods that people love. And sometimes our families prefer because of the inexpense of it, Happy Meals and things like that. And I've had families who say, it's cheaper to feed their children at McDonald's than it is to buy healthy foods. And so these are kind of things that we really are concerned about and how we can address that. And then a lot of the families that we work with, they do have children who go to bed hungry. Some of us may never have had that experience. Some of us may never have had the experience of had to go to school without food. And thanks to Julie there, she talked about that. What does it mean to be able to concentrate in school and to have good grades if you're not able to get the food that you need? So those things are very important. And particularly as we talk about food insecurity, we have to remember our students. I've come across a lot of students at the universities here in Tallahassee that are food insecure, and they're not talking about it. Some are even homeless, and which oftentimes falls into this whole scenario of a holistic health background. Getting people to look at this picture holistically. Food insecurity impacts people who are having substandard housing, folks who not only are in education and trying to go to school, but many folks have those impacts that we don't often talk about. And then how often do we find families, even mothers who are pregnant, who will choose to buy food for their children and not support their own healthy eating practices? So think about food security in a lot deeper way, that it is holistic, and it is a way that we have to address our communities. Next slide, please, Dr. Harrison. So when we talk about food insecurity by the numbers, I don't want to get too deep in data, but we know that 1 in 4 households have experienced food insecurity as of 2020. And we know now, based on what we know in Tallahassee, that those numbers are increasingly higher than this report. Million more children are experiencing food insecurity. Those families who never would have had that issue now are trying to find ways to take care of their children and feed them properly. And some have having trouble substituting those good, healthy fruits and vegetables that they should be eating 5 a day of. They can't do it because they can't afford it. And then, of course, we all know that our Black families are twice as likely as white families to face food insecurity. Those numbers, too, are changing. So we have to look at these numbers, too, in a different way in terms of who's been impacted over the years. And then the food deserts are expanding. People are being gentrified. Communities, families have been displaced. And so we're finding more and more food deserts due to development than we've had before, too. And right now, according to SNAP, 38 million people using this. It's more now, actually. That's a 2019 data. So want to make sure that we get some understanding of what that means and then how all this impacts the public's health. And so if you go to the next slide, we want to just make sure in terms of understanding that the food insecurity it's a social and it's an economic condition. It's something that people are not sure of, at night, if they can have food for the next day, then that causes stress and anxiety and uncertainty, and it causes problems with their mental health. It causes problems with their physical health, and it causes problems with their relationships. And so stress and anxiety, for those of you who are looking in the public health realm or in psychology and social work, I'm sure you're experiencing this, and we have to begin to ask those questions too, about food insecurity as we do our intakes. And figure out just where our families are in this whole routine of food insecurity. So it's a complex problem, we know it, and particularly for low-income families, but for those families who are experiencing nutritional issues, particularly with moms. I've heard moms who told me that they don't always know what to eat, after they have a baby, or even they get some information during pregnancy, but after the baby, how to make sure they're eating properly to take care of themselves and take care of their babies as well. And so several of them don't even know how to cook. That's a fundamental thing that many of us don't think about, but it is something that most of the folks I've encountered both in low income families and moderate and upper income families, cooking is a problem, particularly for our millennials and the Gen X's folks. They're not getting it, so they like it quick and fast, microwave oven type kinds of things. And so as a result, they're not getting all the proper nutrition. So that's one area that we really have to take a good look at. And when you're not advised by your providers exactly what to do with your food and how to set menus and how to plan them over time, it gets to be a medical issue for you. And so I just listed a few things that could be barriers for us. The mental health and the stress is one thing for sure we're seeing more of. And asthma and depression with children is really climbing. Those numbers are up greater than what we've often expected. And those health-related issues are chronic diseases that also contribute to the numbers of people who have diabetes. It's off the chart. You can see that, particularly when it comes to helping people understand how to take care of themselves. Self-care management with diabetics is a tough call for people in any income because it's hard to do that. But with a person who doesn't have the resources and the means to make sure they're eating properly every day and to get their insulin as scheduled, it's even more of a problem and a complex issue. And so diabetes education is critical. And I got to say that sugar intake that Dr. Julie was talking about is one thing that I'm going to continue to preach. We have to change the dietary practices, particularly when it comes to intake of sodas. So people don't drink water. I'm finding it more and more in our community that is a major concern. So our providers, whomever, please encourage our people to drink water. Get rid of the diet sodas and all those things that you think are okay, but are not. And fortunately for us, a lot of the people will do what our doctors say. Some are not compliant, but most of them are, particularly if you give them specific instructions. So connecting up with the with diabetes consultant or with the dietitian, is very important. Insurance is a big factor here, though, because sometimes people don't have the money in their insurance policy to take a nutrition class and get that self-care approach. However, we need to make this a priority because that's where I see a lot of the problems happen with food insecurity. And of course, there's associated issues, very costly for us, adding to loss of productivity from work and all those things. So you already know all that. So let me go on to the next slide. But these are critical things that very important. So just locally here, we've been doing a lot of work in 32304 area. We've been talking a lot about what's going on in the Frenchtown community and what's going on in Griffin Heights. And those numbers are astonishing. Look at that. In Griffin Heights area, in just in zip code 1401, we have 54% of our people who are food insecure. 54. Those numbers have probably changed a little bit now. This is because this is done pre-pandemic, I believe. And then, of course, in the Frenchtown area is 60.6%. That's pretty sad when you think about how many people are experiencing this food insecurity. I know one thing I can tell you, though, that the county, Leon County government has really been doing a good job in bringing forth new ways to address the issues, because if you look at it, they've done over the past few years, they've done a lot of work with residents in the community, trying to find out what is your thinking about food insecurity. Are you food insecure? Do you understand how it works? And in the next slide, you'll see just a little of the successes from people who've talked about it. And one of the things we looked at is the lack of food support in the 32304 area and other zip codes in the Leon County area. We found some things. The city has provided some support through the Neighborhood First plans to address things like community gardening, to have more of that available in our area, to put more attention on marketplaces so people can have access, to grow out the SNAP benefits so that that's available to families, and the double bucks that's available for people who want to come to the market to buy fresh foods, and also the senior vouchers. And that has really helped through at the state level. They've put out a lot more vouchers this year for seniors and for people who are low income to be able to get access to healthy fruits and vegetables at their local markets. So that has helped a lot. And so the people have said, though, at some community dinners that were sponsored in 9 communities, the Leon County Housing Division and Social Needs Human Services tackle that right on and ask people what it is that is important to you in addressing this issue of food insecurity. And some of the things that came up were really amazing. One had to do with transportation. That's really key in everything we talked about. Getting back and forth to the food and having access to grocery stores and that kind of thing. So we already understand that as we talk about food deserts. But the resources that are needed for mental health and other food services, the lack of knowledge and education of food and nutrition and preparation. That was a key thing, how to prepare certain healthy foods. And the other thing was not being able to get to pantries. Those people who are food insecure, who are often not able to get to a local grocery store, can't always get to a food pantry, because sometimes if the Second Harvest program brings food to a certain designated location, then some people can't even get to that location. So that's really tough. So we have to find out new ways of dealing with that. And then one thing I thought that Dr. Julie said was, so I want to just highlight a little bit about the healthiest food is really at a place where folks have their own communities. So the origin of the food, where it comes from, just like with honey grown in a local community is a lot more helpful for you than grown someplace else. And that was really interesting to watch how that works. But in Griffin Heights area, there's a plan in the city plan for developing a grocery store in the Griffin Heights area. And so that itself is going to create more opportunity for people to get food at the local level. And then more community gardens will follow that. So the community members can begin to grow food for that store in their community. So we'll be able to address some of those issues that Dr. Julie brought up, having more markets and availability. But most of the residents were unaware of the benefits that they could receive. They didn't have a lot of information about how to manage the money they have, regarding to spending it. It's going to be for medicine, and it's going to be for food. Is it going to be for childcare? If it's for healthcare, just how would they manage their money in a way? So budgeting and financial planning is really another key aspect of this. And then learning how to cook the food from the food that they're learning about. New foods being introduced to them. Kale, for instance, from the community garden is really good source of energy, and it is something that our families are not, particularly familiar with. And so they need to have a lot more education around how to use that will help them. And then the other
Maisha, I just want to give you a heads up that we're getting close on time. So if you could please conclude when you have a moment, that would be so wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm just enjoying everything that you're sharing so very much.
I got you. You're right on time. Okay, so I'm leaving it just really part of the lessons learned and the impact for those dinners has been really incorporated into tackling poverty. It's a document that you can find online from the Leon County Commission. And then, of course, that would tell you a little bit about what they plan to do in the future around food insecurity in our area. And you can also access the documents for the Neighborhood First Planning at the City of Tallahassee at talgov.com. So Neighborhood First Planning for Griffin Heights, for the Bond community, and for Frenchtown are online for your use and exploration. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was so wonderful. I'm just really enjoying learning all that our community has to offer in terms of promoting food security for our community members. So thank you for sharing that. I've learned a lot. Our next speaker is Livy Simmons from Second Harvest. Thank you for joining us, Livy.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let me make sure you guys can see everything. All right. Can you guys see my screen? Everything look okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you guys so much for having me this morning. It's been wonderful to hear a little bit about health and nutrition and then what's going on actually in our community here and the issue of food insecurity. So I'm just so excited to be representing Second Harvest at the Big Bend and kind of just explaining a little bit about how we're addressing the issue and what our programs are and how we kind of view the need here in our area as well. So thank you guys so much for allowing us to join. I'll go ahead and jump right on in. All right, so if you are not familiar with Second Harvest of the Big Bend, we are the food bank here in Tallahassee, and we are part of Feeding America. So Feeding America is kind of like our parent organization. We are then a part of Feeding Florida, which is a statewide association of food banks. So we are one of 12 food banks in the state of Florida, and we all work together. It's, as you can see in these dots here, these all represent food banks. So you can kind of see where the different food banks are, even in Florida. What's wonderful about being a part of a statewide association is that we're able to work together and collaborate. We actually jump on a call every Tuesday morning, and we work together to see what issues people are seeing in different parts of the state and how they're combating that, and then maybe what we have seen working here in Tallahassee, so some other food banks can test it out as well. And so we all work together as a part of Feeding America. Let's see, so this is our service area here. It's color-coded a little bit differently. I want to break it down a little bit for you guys because a lot of people just think that Second Harvest is a food pantry, which is awesome. We work with food insecurity and make sure that food gets into the homes of those who need it. But the way that we do it is a little bit different. So we are a food bank. We're not a food pantry. So we don't have neighbors coming into our warehouse every day to grab food for themselves. We kind of make sure that those food pantries and our partner agencies, that they have food to then give out to the neighbors. So important to kind of make that distinction to understand what all these counties are. So this here is our service area. The 11 counties in green are all the counties that we're responsible for, from Feeding America and then also USDA. The yellow counties here, as of July 1, are now also a part of our service area. We were taking about 6 months at the end of 2022 before fully putting these counties underneath our belt and being responsible for them as well. So we're kind of in this little swing time with these counties right now, learning about the need and how we can jump in and take those counties on. So those 16 counties are our full service area. What that means with it being our service area is that we are contractually obligated to get pounds of food into these counties. So what that looks like is Feeding America, the government, they come together with all this data, they decide and assess what the need is, then they tell us exactly how many pounds of food they believe need to be distributed so that individuals in that area can have access to healthy and nutritious food. So they give us those numbers. We know that we are also the boots on the ground who can kind of help figure out maybe we need to push a little more food here, that kind of thing. So we work together with all that data and Feeding America to make sure those pounds get out. And then these orange counties here are 5 additional counties that through the Florida Department of Agriculture, we are required to do a senior program through. So as I walk through those programs, I'll kind of talk about that a little bit more and what we do in those counties. Okay, so what is the need? We've talked about this a lot already. You guys have heard some awesome, super impactful and helpful information already. So I don't want to dig too much into it, but I did want to start off by kind of creating this distinction between hunger and food insecurity. So they're often used interchangeably, but really they're very different. Hunger, as quoted by Feeding America, is the feeling that someone has when they don't have enough food. So that's that feeling. How many of you guys, maybe some of y'all haven't eaten lunches yet and you're about ready for some lunch, you have that feeling of hunger. Food insecurity, though, is the consistent lack of food to have a healthy life because of your economic situation. So Feeding America Food Banks and what Second Harvest is doing is that we're working to end hunger by addressing that food insecurity. So that's a little distinction that we like to keep in mind. While we do obviously work on food insecurity, we use a lot of other research to kind of understand the need as well. So one of our favorite types of research to kind of look to for guidance and reference is the ALICE report through the United Way of the Big Bend. Many of you may have heard of this before. If not, ALICE stands for Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed. So these are a lot of individuals in our communities who are working 1, maybe 2 jobs, but they're having to make those tough choices. Should they buy their kid that Happy Meal, or should they pay their light bill? Things like that. So these individuals are having to make tough choices. And if you look at this here, this diagram, you can see that the need, whenever we think of Alice population, it's really, really high. And we tend to look at this as well because we know that even though maybe, I'll hop on over to the next slide, maybe what, some people say are food insecure necessarily, maybe the Alice population is just a bit larger, and those are usually the typical neighbors that we kind of see using our services, are those who are having to make those tough choices. A lot of times people may visit a food pantry maybe once or twice, or they may consistently use a food pantry. So that's why we look at this Alice report here. If I were to go back to that slide, you would have seen that Leon County, the Alice population is 49%, which is just crazy. That's, if you think about it, every other door that you drive by on your way home today could be in this Alice population. So that's kind of what we try to think about and how we conceptualize the need in our area through that Alice population. So here is what Second Harvest is doing, our approach to create a difference in the Big Bend. I know Ms. Maisha was just talking about those community dinners, roundtable discussions. Second Harvest was a part of those as well, meeting with the community to see what they thought the needs were and how we can come alongside them a little bit better. While these are our core programs and ways that we get food out into the communities, we know that there's also a lot of other work to be done and things behind the scenes. So, for example, this is our Lots Garden, community garden out in Monticello. We have volunteers come out and they grow this fresh produce, donate it back to the food bank, and then we push it out into the community just days after they harvest this food. So this is another example of one of those really full circle educational programs that we have as well that may not be mentioned in these next programs. All right, so one of the major ways that we get food out into the community is through our partner agencies and additional partners. So this could look like churches, other nonprofits. It also could look like schools, school programs, school boards, different things like that. We have 125 partner agencies and then 42 additional partners. And those partners look like maybe they aren't necessarily an agency where they order food with us, but we partner with them. So through those partner agencies, they're able to view a menu on our online portal, order food from us, we deliver it. We're all over these 16 counties, 6 days a week, and we make sure that their pantries are full so they're able to get it out into the community. A way that a neighbor can access where our pantries are and where the food that we're sending out is through our website. Super easy to use. It actually has a location where you can drop a pin of exactly where you're at. And on our website, it can tell you exactly where the closest food pantry is and what their hours are and directions to get there. So it's really easy to use, and we love to push all of our neighbors to our partner agencies. We talked a little bit earlier about senior nutrition. We know it's really important. We focus a lot on those vulnerable populations, so seniors and children for our programs. So we have a senior grocery program. This looks like in our partner agencies, they can actually order food specific to seniors. So as they were talking earlier about how seniors may have different needs than children or different individuals, we have special food that is specific to the seniors' needs. We have diabetic boxes that partner agencies can order from us to meet those needs as well. So that's our senior grocery program. And then the Commodity Supplemental Food Program, or CSFP program, is a USDA regulated program. This is specific low-income seniors. They have to qualify for this program. It's a government program that we kind of help run in all of those counties. So all those counties that you saw earlier, we work with the CSFP program to make sure that seniors who are qualifying low income are able to receive food for it. The box is about enough food for a month, so it's a pretty hearty box. And then we have our child nutrition program. So a lot of people may be a little bit more familiar with these. I'll try and knock these out kind of quickly, but we have our backpack program. Many of you may know that students who receive free or reduced lunch, those 2 meals that they're guaranteed, that breakfast and lunch every single day, they might be the only 2 meals that those children receive, that they're completely guaranteed every single day. So when the students go home over the weekend, there's 2 days there where if they are experiencing food insecurity, they may not be guaranteed those meals. So we have a backpack program where we fill up bags with food, enough food for the weekend for these students, and it is specific to what their nutritional needs are as well. It's very well balanced, so we really focus on that as well. And it just goes in a little plastic bag and it can fit in the student's backpack. It's really discreet. Nobody has to know about it. And we actually give out about 4,000 of these bags every Friday. So this is one of our largest programs. We also have our after-school meal program. We work with the schools to make sure that they have the food to either cook hot meals, or we have snack pack programs or snack packs that we send with our after-school meal program. We also have school food pantry program. This looks like food pantries within the schools. Really simple, but we just make sure that those schools are fully supported and they have all the food that they need so that those individuals, the students and their families, can come access a food pantry. And then we have a summer food program. It looks a little different every year, but we drive to neighborhoods that aren't necessarily able to access, maybe because of transportation or other issues, access those brick and mortar sites that are doing hot meals. We actually come into those neighborhoods in our van and open up our doors and give them meals that way. Another super cool one, some of you guys may have heard about this. This is, as of September, brand new, a food locker. Maybe it looks familiar to you guys. The model that we kind of modeled this after was like an Amazon food locker. Each of these lockers, families or individuals can actually call the school or go onto their website and place an order. Just say that they want food in a box, food in the locker, and then they'll just be sent a code. And just like you would do it on Amazon, you scan that barcode and it would pop open a door for them. Then there's a meal for them there. Right now, we're just doing shelf-stable items, but eventually each of these lockers are able to be refrigerated, frozen, or hot. So we could eventually do hot meals in here as well. So this is our first one in Sable Palm Elementary. It just opened in September. We have another one in Madison County that just opened last month, and we have plans for more to come. So this is always an exciting one to talk about. And another exciting one to talk about, this will be coming in January, our just-in-time mobile distribution pantries. In partnership with Publix, they have gifted us these vans here where we'll be able to stock with fresh produce, where maybe if we get a big push of produce, we can push it out into the community really easily. So this would look like we might fill up that van, food on the move, go to a neighborhood, drop it, open up the doors, and allow people to come in and pick out what they need. It gives a lot more dignity to the neighbor so that they can tell us what their needs are. And then lastly, I have our Second Harvest mobile distributions. This is the most effective way that we have seen us be able to push food out. We actually had our largest one this Saturday. And I just want to show you guys a quick video to show you a little bit about what this actually looks like. So it'll just be a few quick, maybe a minute, and then I'll wrap up. So make sure you guys can hear me.
Today is our Thanksgiving distribution. Our team came prepared with 1,200 turkeys, 1,000 of which we were able to get from our turkey drive that happened this year. We're out here at the mall, and those 1,000 turkeys and the 200 additional we were able to add to it are being grouped together with some holiday boxes and a bunch of fresh produce that all the families that come out here today will be able to leave, take home, and enjoy with their family for Thanksgiving this year.
It's been an awesome morning here at Governor's Square Mall at our annual Thanksgiving distribution. We've fed over 1,000 families with everything that they need for Thanksgiving meal, including a frozen turkey thanks to our turkey drive. We've had awesome volunteers out in the community here packing these produce bags, loading the cars, and making a difference. So thank you, Tallahassee, for making this happen.
So I just wanted to share that visual with you guys, a little bit about what it looks like whenever we do our mobile distributions. That's what it looks like right there. We fill up the cars of those who maybe need food. It's often fresh produce, bread, meat, and then a box of shelf-stable food. So that's often what it looks like. And that was just a little over a week ago what we did for Thanksgiving. So thank you guys so much for having us and allowing me to share a little bit about what our programs are and what we're doing to meet the issue of food insecurity here in this area.
Thank you, Libby, and thank you to all of our speakers today who had so much interesting and important information to share with us. I know I learned a lot. I hope everyone else did too. At this time, I'd like to open it up for questions. Please, if you have a question, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was just incredible information. All three talks were very informative, and I downloaded the app, Julia. I wanted to ask Maisha, you listed a lot of partners who are assisting with the 32304, especially Griffin Heights and Frenchtown. And I would love to see FSU on that list of people who are helping and supporting. I know you've had some meetings with the president and the provost. I know our office is less than 0.4 miles from Griffin Heights. And so I feel like our department and our college and our university should be one of those partners helping. So I just wanted to, I guess it's more of a comment, but we're here and would love to continue talking to you about how we can also help and support in that effort, either through funding or help or whatever.
Thank you for that. Yeah, that's really great because there is we said to the president, you guys are our neighbors around the corner here in 32304. So it's a neighborly thing to do. So I appreciate it. And definitely we'll follow up with you on that. And thank you. The Second Harvest, Second Harvest is a major partner for us. So we've really been doing some great work with them over the years. And so with the new garden, a lot more food is available in our area. And hopefully food for the grocery store. Miss Simmons, think about it as we move forward with getting our grocery store in the Griffin Heights area. Yes, Dr. Flynn, I appreciate it. We can certainly follow that up.
Thank you.
Lots of places for us to work. And the neighborhood plan, if you want to take a look at that, is a good start just to see where the people have said they need support. And it's online at talgov.com.
Yeah, thanks. I'll distribute that to our department. Thanks for reminding me that it's on the website. It
is on the website for both Griffin Heights, Frenchtown, and Bond, and Providence. Those 4 community groups are there. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is that a question?
Caroline is asking if you want to speak about efforts to educate and support growing our own food at home. The Mayan Herbalists Without Borders, Earth Garden Seed Time Harvest.
Oh my gosh, yes. There's a lot of opportunity, and there are partners out here who've been working with us for years now to grow food, not only at home. You could do it front yard, backyard growing, community gardening. So, online applications available at the city and the county both. So that if you want to start a garden, there's opportunity there to do that. Get that application offline. There's a support system too with a startup seed funds to get you going with your garden. Some technical support from the Tallahassee Food Network usually is available. And then we have training programming. So if you want to participate in our training efforts, that's possible too. Mondays and Fridays, we have people at the garden, usually depending on the season, I guess, but typically from 8 to about 11 when it's really cool, warm. And then later from 9 to about noon, if it's pretty hot. So we're trying to get people there in the mornings to do volunteer work and learn about gardening skills. And on Saturdays, the first Saturday, we always have a program available for children. We do Arts in the Garden. This Saturday, if anybody want to come and check us out, we're at 611 Dent Street. It's first Saturdays, the Children's Garden, collards and cornbread. And so if you want some collards and cornbread fresh from our garden, come out and take a look. We've just now got our license also to be able to sell food straight from the garden. So we have marketplace on site.
That's great. That's really good to know. I'm glad that came up at the last minute. That's very good information.
Yeah, thank you.
So you're getting a lot of thanks in the chat. I think we're going to wrap up. This has been amazing. Thank you guys. Fantastic information. Thanks to all of you who joined us today. We really appreciate your engagement.
Yeah, thank you guys. And stay in touch. Come on out in the community, hang out.
We will, and we'll spread the word.
All right.
All right. See you. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.